Stanza 2 is along the same lines as stanza 1 of poem 3. Stanza 5 refers to narrow-eyedness. Its exact translation of the Persian word for greed, and there is consequently in the original a play of meaning between the physical and moral attributes of the Tartars. It is significant that Hafiz should choose the narrow-eyed Tartar robbers as types of cruelty, just as the Anglo-Saxons prayed to be delivered from the Danes. The people where the Celts came from, right? So, a clause in the Persian litany of the 13th and 14th centuries might have been, from the power of the Tartars, good Lord deliver us, first under Hulagu and then under Timur. They overran and devastated Persia. The destruction wrought by them was very similar to that wrought by the Arab conquerors in the Roman provinces of North Africa. They razed to the ground great cities. They reduced populous and fertile regions to a barren desert, breaking down the old reservoirs and destroying the irrigating system, completely changing the physical conditions of parts of the country. In the mountains of the north of Tehran, for instance, there are villages bearing names, the etymology of which points to their having stood at the outlet of a reservoir, which no other trace remains, and it is said that the country surrounding the town was far more thoroughly irrigated before the Tartar invasion and supported a large population. The invaders completely destroyed the ancient city of Ragas, which lay at a distance of about 3 miles from the modern capital, Ragas. The same thing happened in North Africa. The ruins of Roman towns are to be found in country which must once have been fertile, but which is now reconquered by the sands of the Sahara. Well, the Hyperborean people, the Turkish and Mongol invasions of, like 800 years ago, well, that's not the exact number of years, but you know what I mean. It wasn't the only time that those people made their way through countries to the south and even west. One poor robe, the Persian runs, man dervish yek kaba, i.e., I, a poor man of one robe, dervish signifying in its primary sense, it is hardly necessary to say poor. I should think that the double meaning is significant. In its mystical sense, the poem describes how Hafiz found consolation in the ecstatic drunkenness of the Sufis. In the minstrel's song, our divine message which brought him a word from God, and when finally the last shred of his orthodoxy had been torn from him, when in his desperate struggle with existence he was forced to abandon even his dervish robe, heaven mercifully showed him a safe refuge in the Sufi doctrines. Certainly the doctrines more than the forms. But the forms, you don't necessarily neglect the forms, but it depends on whether the form is an obligation or just what somebody somewhere thought was a good idea.